Good afternoon. The camera is telling me we're live, so I hope that you are seeing. I'd like to check in with our guest here, Jean. Are you able to hear me? Well, praise everybody. Thank goodness. Okay, what a relief. And hello to everybody who is joining us this afternoon. It's great to have you here. And Jean and I have been having a little bit of fun for the last few minutes, navigating some technical challenges, but it all worked out, and here we are. So it's and I can see that there are folks joining us here. Jean, I don't know what you're able to see in terms of that, but oh, great. Right, right. Actually, if there is somebody who wants to say hello and just to let us know that they can hear us and see us, that would be great. People are saying hello, and seems to be a bit frozen. Okay. It's going really, really quickly. Yes, so are you able to see anything? Hello, people are saying hello. Okay, so I see hi from Waterloo. Oh, here we go. I see what I've done here now. So I think people will get to see you now. People should see you now. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Let's check. I think I've got Jean on the line. So if folks could let me know if they see Jean. Yeah, I'm seeing that people can see and hear.
But I'm wondering, some here now we can. I'm getting my very good friend Stephen out in Winnipeg now letting us know that we can.
Good.
I can be heard.
Stephen, that's great. I'm sure delighted to have you here, Jean, and thank you for your patience as we sort of navigate the technology. It's such an honor to get a chance to meet you and to have you with us. And I'm seeing notices here that that people are seeing and hearing us, so that's great. Before we get going, let me just get my little notes here so I make sure that we cover everything that we want to talk about in our time together. Okay, so this event this afternoon is organized by the Ontario Network of CAPC and CPMP projects, and also by our sponsor organization, Horizon Family and Community Services. And before we get too far into our conversation, I would like for us to pause for a moment and offer a land acknowledgement. And in our network, we like to acknowledge and give thanks to the First Peoples of the territories where we work and serve, and in other Indigenous peoples for sharing their land for us to do the work that we do in communities with vulnerable families all across Ontario. So just a moment of that gratitude and that acknowledgement. And to maybe set some intention of coming together with that purpose of serving those communities and those families, and welcoming the wisdom of Dr. Clinton here with us. So thank you to those First Peoples, and thank you, Jean, for joining us. I wonder, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself? I'm guessing a lot of people watching know who you are, but we maybe could like to hear a little bit about who you are and what brings you here.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Sydney. And, thanks so much for that, the acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement. And I loved your setting the intention setting the intention that in these troubling times that we connect together in ways that support our desire to help people and ourselves get to better. Be the best that they can be. So a little bit about me. One, thank you for all the loving messages that are being sent my way. I'm just getting goosebumps. But as you know, I'm a child psychiatrist, infant, child, and adolescent psychiatrist, and spend a lot of my time now being what I consider upstream, and that is looking at the conditions that have children run into trouble in the first place, rather than where I spent many of my years was in the middle of the river, trying to grab one or two families at a time. So I spend a lot of time as a knowledge translator now, really thinking about how as community and how as families and educators can we think about connecting with kids before we correct.
Wonderful. The community developer in me, Jean, loves to hear about people talking, working upstream, right? And looking to address those root causes or those root issues that, create those vulnerabilities in the first place. So, I really admire your perspective and the work and how that informs your work. It's just so very important. Now, as Jean knows, we talked about this. There are a couple of videos that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show. Should I try and do it?
Why don't you take a second just for it works? Yeah.
What's that?
Why don't you try?
Okay, yeah. Let me at least tell everybody about these videos. And Jean, maybe you might want to add a little bit because I know you've been involved in making some of them. So the context for these videos that we're going to tell you about is that this public health crisis that we are facing right now with the coronavirus has unique impacts upon the health and well-being of children and their caregivers. And with this need for physical distancing and the closing of daycares and public spaces, the stress and pressure on families is really unprecedented. Parents and caregivers are struggling to do the best they can to help families. And Horizon, along with Dr. Jean Clinton here and the Blend Media Group, wanted to create some tools to help families. So we're happy to tell you about this series of videos that will provide tips, resources, and supports for parents. They're called the Handy Tips. And there are 4 videos that show young children what they can do to help keep themselves and others safe. So empowering young children, offering them a sense of control, which hopefully can lower anxiety and promote calm. So these videos, and we're hoping to show you an example of one, fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. But they will be downloadable from the Horizon website, and we'll be sure to put a link on the Facebook event page for this chat and also on our network page. I'm sure Jean's Facebook page as well will probably have those links. And we'll also be sharing them in our social media. So, Jean, is there anything you wanted to say about them before I try to show one of them?
Yeah, well, I think just to point out to people that there are many of us on this chat who feel compelled to do something to reach out. And my dear friends, Kathy Lee and Tim at the Blend reached out to me and said, can we get some quick messages put together for kids so that they feel that they're actually doing something? So like many of us here, this is just one very, very quickly produced set of videos. So yeah, let's see if it works, and then we can talk a little bit more about the coronavirus and what we can think about doing.
Okay. So I am going to try this screen share function. So let's cross our fingers. Okay, share screen. So just trying to get it pulled up here. When did you become involved with this project, Jean?
72 hours ago, or maybe
Okay.
with Kathy Lee and Tim of the Blend, a long time, but with just this video just in the past week, it really was.
Okay.
It really was. It's a fast turnaround. I'm wondering if it's going to work, or if we should just kind of start.
Well, maybe we'll come back to it.
Okay.
And try it at the end, because I just had to do a little adding a little extension. So while that's going, let's just maybe begin our discussion.
All right. So I've been reading and listening to people whose views I respect a lot, like Dr. Bruce Levy, Dr. Bruce Perry, and Levine, and the Harvard Center on the Developing Child. So thinking about how can we help families in these challenging times. And one of the key lessons I'm learning is that we have to remember that kids are little barometers of us. So one of the absolutely most important things is, if we are incredibly anxious with the kids,
right,
they're going to pick that up. So one of the key things is to check your own temperature, as it was. I was, we've got in our family, I'm having to check our temperature a lot, because we've got, I have kids on the front line in healthcare. And so, to lend kids your calm, and to make sure that we as adults are thinking about how can we help the kids rather than being overwhelmed. And so what that also means is it's so easy to get caught into the over and over and over again of the media. So to be healthful towards ourselves, and that is limit the media exposure that we have. Particularly, kids don't recognize that the media is repeating the same stories every so many minutes, however long it is in between. So if you've got it on in the background, they're thinking, oh, here's another new event. Oh, here's another, so we really have to be judicious there. So why is it so important for us to stay calm? And that's because, we all talk about self-regulation, of course, but when you think about how the brain actually works, what we need in order to get to the best state that we can be is to make sure that we are feeling, and for our kids, creating safety. So that this is what my friend calls the 3 great states, the 3 S's. So we need to be creating safety. So for each of our kids, we need to think about, how do I create that for them? And that means as they ask questions, you don't go into long epidemiological explanations, but you keep it as simple as developmentally they ask, and ask them, well, what do you know about it? They also, we are the most important stress response buffers is our relationships, where we feel significant, where we feel that we belong, that we matter. And so even though our kids are going to they're home from school now, they're home from childcare, we need to be thinking, am I connecting before I'm correcting? Am I recognize that the kids are going to be asking you the same question over and over and over again, completely normal. It doesn't mean that they suddenly lost their IQ, right? It's completely normal. But the brain is saying, so am I safe? Do I feel like I belong, that I matter, that I'm valued and valuable? So that means we pick and choose our battles as parents. We pick and choose our battle. Think, connect before correct. And then, the 3rd great state is, am I situated? Do I know what my job is? Do I know what my purpose is? And so we as parents need to remember that the purpose of childhood is play. That is how they learn. That's how they change their environment to understand it more. So are we focusing on creating experiences for them to be played and playful? So that means, what do we need to do as families is we need to intentionally lighten up, be more playful. There are some fabulous writers out there. Anne Douglas, our own wonderful Anne Douglas, is a fabulous resource. I also really like Dr. Laura Markham, who is AHA Parenting, and Vanessa Lapointe. So there are some really great resources, credible resources out there to check into about how do you play, how do you create crafts and those kinds of activities for kids, because it's really important that we think about what the brain likes is predictability, and how can we create routine. So don't sleep in all day. Try and bring in a routine into getting up at the same time, having your breakfast, having some playtime, having some reading. Did I say reading? Reading to the kids.
Reading. And more reading.
And more reading, because that's how kids learn language and phonemic awareness, having all of those kind of things. Anyway, I've nattered on for a bit here. What do you think?
Well, I think in what I was able to see at the videos, which I think they really reflect what you're saying, and what folks will see when you get a chance to see them. There's use of what they call hand puppet, and it's literally a puppet made out of a hand, which is really quite speaks to that element of fun that you're talking about, right? And so I think it's going to be a really great resource for families. And I really love what you're saying around, maintaining a sense of calm and fun, right? And what I'm hearing you say too, Jean, is the importance of routine, right? Because that's such an important kind of space of safety for kids as well, especially when we're going through something extraordinary or different or challenging, like we currently are with the coronavirus.
From the brain, and that those three great states, that the kids and we do what we need to feel safe, to feel significant, and to feel situated, so that we feel safe, that we feel connected and belong. And now what does that mean? So for me, that translates to, I'm on WhatsApp a lot, with my kids, with my family, and sending pictures. So, I've got pictures of my my 5 grandchildren, not all of them eating, making cupcakes, but doing science experiments, doing all kinds of things, doing all kinds of things at home. But, I'm also saying yes to these kind of opportunities where I can connect with you. I'm stuck at home, but I'm connecting. I'm doing Zoom meetings, and also with some friends. We had a virtual soiree or whatever, getting together. So we were all in our own houses. And one time we even did a short story. We read a short story. And my husband hated it. I loved it. And so we had great conversations about it. So that's, that sense of belonging, cohesion, we can build and do something. And so back to the brain, I keep saying the brain. So if you think of the brain as a kind of upside down triangle, and at the bottom of the brain is, we have the primitive biological drives, and at the top of the brain, at the top of that triangle, if you like, is the thinking brain. And you can't get to the thinking brain if you've got that alarm system turned off at the basic part of the brain, the primitive part of the brain. That's why my
Right.
friend Stephen de Groot, who has developed this model of safe, significant, and situated, is very clear that first of all, you need to have that safety, because once you, and how do you get that safety? Well, you have to be able to do it through relating.
Right.
You relate. Once you're able to relate, then you're able to do other things. But to relate, you first have to regulate.
Yeah.
You first have to regulate, and that regulation that's why I talk about, and Bruce Perry talks about dancing or drumming. That you're active, you're going outside, you're taking in nature. That is all that is helping you regulate. Once you can regulate, then you can relate. Once you can relate, then you can reason.
Right. That makes sense. You know, we watched a recording of a webinar of yours last week, the one you did for the infant mental health series, and you did a session on ACEs, and we had such a great group that really enjoyed your session. And I remember you talking about as well, acknowledging those different types of stress, right? And that, you know, we do come across stress in our life, right? You talked about setting up your presentation, and I'm of course relating to our experience just now, you know, right? Getting online, and these are sort of normal experiences of stress that happen. And then it's about thinking about that progression to that toxic stress, right? And how can we buffer against that?
Yeah. So what we and so this is the Harvard Center on the Developing Child and the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative. So the FWI and the Harvard Center have done a really good job of this, of explaining that we have different degrees. Like stress is absolutely normal. It's in throughout life and daily life, and how well we're able to deal with that stress, how it's moderated and buffered by relationships, determines whether it's going to be toxic stress or whether it's going to be toxic stress. Sorry, I've got a call coming in here. So is it toxic stress? So if you don't have the moderation, and what helps you become more, that stress become more moderated and moderate and able to be dealt with, is can you create predictability out of unpredictability? Can you create connection out of disconnection? So you slide the scale away from distress over to stress.
Right.
So we'll post on this a lovely couple of videos, conferences or podcasts or something that Dr. Bruce Perry has done to explain this. So you can see why from a neuroscience perspective, the things that he's suggesting and I'm sharing with you are what are building these pathways from despair, distress to managing stress. And it's all about the relationship and the connection and that ability to help regulate.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm keeping an eye on the comments here, and I'm seeing a lot of sort of affirmations for you, Jean, and for what you're saying, and a lot of gratitude being expressed. I haven't spotted any questions at this point, but I have to confess it might be a function of my glasses and the progressive lenses and the small print. So if you have asked a question and we haven't noticed, please forgive me and feel free to maybe ask it again. And if we also will go back, if you know, we'll have an opportunity for people to ask questions on our Facebook page that we can answer those. But in the meantime, a couple of questions that we had for you for our discussion, Jean. Is there anything that you would say in the field of infant and child mental health is new and exciting, or anything that recently that you've noticed?
Yeah, well, so infant and early childhood mental health really is all about the developing capacity of little ones to make connections, to become attached, to develop those peer relations and the dyad, first of all with mom, dad, partner, those crucial ones. So building the ability to create that's one part of infant mental health. It's social and emotional development. And then the next part is the ability to express, manage, and experience your emotions. So, my daughter has 2 2-year-old twins and a 2-month-old. So she is in the up to the hilt in terms of little ones learning how to experience and express their emotion. And when you have high expectations of kids, then they meet those expectations. So here we've got 2-year-old boy twins who, when they want to share something, they'll say, "Mummy, the big noise." And so that is a little timer on the phone that goes off. And when it goes off, they switch. They have learned it too, how to take turns. So they need to express their emotion. And then they need to play, explore, get out there. So what's really exciting to me in the field of infant and early childhood mental health is it's really about social and emotional learning. So people are paying much more attention to relational health now than they ever did before. Relational health. And the other thing is, there was a great study that's just come out at the end of the year there that looked at a group of babies who the parents did a charting of how often they picked them up when they were distressed and how they soothed them. There was a group that did it a lot, a group that didn't do it so much, and then they looked at the DNA sequencing and what they call the epigenetics of the kids, the epigenome, and what they saw was significant differences in the babies who were picked up a lot and the ones who weren't picked up a lot. And there was what the exact implications of this is not known yet, but it's opened up the door to say we're now getting measures to support what Nana said all along. You don't let a baby cry. You make sure that they feel safe, that they feel that they belong. Anyway, so that's something that's very exciting to me.
Absolutely.
Our time, Sydney, how are we doing?
Yeah,
I can't see.
We're getting real close to 4. It's just gone real quick. So, are you able to stay a minute or two past? What's your time?
I sure am.
Okay.
We have to remember our prizes though too.
That's right. And I'm trying to wrap our brain around that, about the best way to do that, because we actually have a couple of copies of a book that Jean has recommended called Happy Parents, Happy Kids by Ann Douglas, who you talked about earlier. And when we were getting set up for our chat, we had a question, and I think, so what we will do is ask the question, and if you've got an answer, we will award the book to the first person that comes up in the chat. Now, I will say this chat goes by really quick because we got a lot of people joining us. So I will do my best to catch it. And if you are the first person to respond, make sure to send me a Facebook message and we'll get this prize out to you, but we'll see if we can catch. So our question is, so what you've heard Jean talking about and the insights that she has, what's one takeaway that you have from what she's saying? So if you want to offer that in the chat, we will, the first person who can who puts in a comment, we will try to connect with and send a copy of that book. So what is your takeaway from what we've heard so far? And I think I see Christina Miller Ireland said, stay calm. And I think that probably is so Christina, I hope I got your name right. Christina Miller Ireland. You know, make sure to get in touch with me through the Facebook page, and we'll connect. But I'm seeing a lot of answers here: connection and belonging, and staying connect before correct, which has been a strong message of yours. So Jean, a lot of the people watching here work in communities with families, right? They're doing that community-based work directly with parents and families. What advice do you have for them in terms of working with families on a real grassroots level out in the community?
Well, you know, what I've said about connect before correct, check your own calm, come with soft eyes, as my friend Susan Hopkins from Self-Reg talks about, I think should parallel what we're saying to what we're hoping for parents to have in their relationship with their kids should be what your workers, the CPNP and CAPC, come into their relationship with the mums and dad. And I say that, but I know that's already the mindset. So the mindset of, I'm not here to fix you, I'm here to support you on our journey together. I think in these challenging times really needs to be the key messages. One of the questions I saw, two of the questions that I saw here really underscore this, because families who are living in very high stress situations, worrying legitimately now, do I pay the rent or feed the kids? That's the reality that they have. That the kids are going to be potentially worse behaved. There's going to be more temper tantrums. That if we think of the peak of the iceberg, what's worrying them and what's underneath them. So if we can if we can help parents to recognize that the little one's stress is not about them. It's not about them don't take it personally, but it has to do with their picking up the unrest that's around. And if instead of timing them out, you can time them in and say, I recognize their feelings. Say, I see you're just so upset. Let daddy give you a hug. Come close to me. Let's read your favorite story. So lend them your calm by co-regulating them.
Right.
By co-regulating them, bringing them in.
Spiral, as opposed to, like, how you can get sometimes maybe an unhelpful feedback where everybody's, contributing, building up the stress. You're kind of inverting that.
Yes, absolutely. You're inverting it, you're interrupting it. And then hugely important is get outside and play. It's how kids learn, but we also know that physical play is just good for kids. And it builds the brain and does all kinds of things. But being outside, being able to run, being able to jump. Now, they can't go to parks and play on play equipment, but there are other places that they can go out. Get them outside, away from the screens as much as possible. Hugely important.
So important. Now, Jean, we haven't had time to touch on all our questions, but you did spend some time at the beginning of the session, sort of acknowledging our current, milieu that we're hanging out in with the coronavirus. And I did see a couple of questions kind of asking about that and what your advice is. So I wonder, do you have any final kind of thoughts or comments? And then we'll see if we can give away our final book.
Right. Well, I must say I'm learning so much in so many different domains. I'm learning that I do best when I'm busily trying to look at what my needs, values, and goals are, right? So I just now, and again, that's my good friend Stephen de Groot, that you can check Brivia, Brivia. But I now am looking and saying, I need to have a sense I'm contributing. And in order to do that, I need so I've looked at, and the value for me is I really need to feel that I'm making a difference. So this is a time that I think, even though it is so chaotic, how we will anchor ourselves in this world is to really think about, what are your core four? What are your values, your needs, your goals, and your strengths? So come back to thinking about that, and then you find your calm. Then you find your ability to say, this is what I'm about, and I'm going to hang on to that in these crazy times. Now, some people reach that or access that state in the three great states through their meditation or those kinds of practices. But for everyday families, get out, dance, play, music, build a routine, connect, and read to those little ones like crazy.
Read, and more reading, right?
More reading, and have them reading along with you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, oh my goodness. For those watching, you may or may not be aware that Jean was actually going to come to Kitchener-Waterloo, which is where Corizon is located. Corizon had partnered with a few other groups to have you come in, but with the way things are right now, we, of course, that wasn't the smartest thing to do. So we weren't able to have you here in person, but you very graciously were willing to meet on this virtual platform, and it's we're so grateful for you to be willing to do that, to share your time in that way and your knowledge and wisdom. And we do have one more book to give away. And so when you and I talked earlier, Jean, we said maybe we could ask people to share kind of one action going forward, right? What is one thing that you might take from what we've heard from you, and that you might take going forward? Was that your recollection, Jean? Yeah. One action. Right. So, well, keep an eye. If you have an action, please put it in the chat box, and I'll see if I can. We'll pay attention here for a moment or two. What's one action that you're going to do? I see Malda, girl, co-regulating. Reflect on my core four. Lisa Marie. I think that is the one that I spotted.
All right.
So, and I know that I probably, didn't catch the first one just because they're going by so fast. But Lisa Marie, you offered reflect on your core four, which I think are is wonderful advice. So please feel free to connect with me, and we'll get you that copy of Happy Parents. And so again, Jean, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and I want to thank all the people who have taken time to log in and who bear with us as we sort of I fumble my way through the technology, but despite a challenging start, it seemed to have gone quite well. I want to acknowledge we had hoped to show these videos that Jean has participated in. These they're public service videos to support families and children as we navigate the coronavirus. But we will be posting links to them. They'll be available soon, and we'll be sharing them on the Ontario Network Facebook page. Corizon will be sharing them out through social media. Jean, I'm assuming you'll be sharing on your Facebook page as well. Your Facebook page is Dr. Jean for Kids, is that right?
At Dr. Jean for Kids is my Twitter handle. Yeah.
Yeah, so make sure to follow Jean there if you're a Jean fan, and that's all I can think of. I think we've covered all the things. I'm sure we could talk for another hour or so, but there's always so much to say. But, there
is. Now, one question I have is, is there a way that we'll be able to capture some of these comments? I'd love to go through them, and if there's a couple of questions that are themes, then we can post an answer back. So maybe we can figure that out. how to
That's right. So once we end, I will see if we can, and like you say, Jean, you'll be willing to review them. If you did have questions that didn't get answered, feel free to post them on our event page that we had, or on our network page, and we'll get them to Jean as well, and she can have some comments back to your questions. So we'll do our best to follow up. It's been really great to see all the folks who are here, and I'm seeing a lot of wonderful gratitude towards Eugene for the work that you do and for your time today.
My pleasure. Glad to be able to do something, and thanks for hanging in and figuring this technology out. That's a little stress provoking, but great. Thank you very much. Be well and hug those kids and FaceTime with Nana.
Okay. Thanks, Jean.
Okay.
Take care, and thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.